video that was shot in Michigan, and I had a conversation with Ehtisham Ghulam, who is a Muslim, and we discussed the subject of apologetics, particularly Muslim, Christian, and atheist apologetics. But before we get into that, I wanted to define what apologetics is. Apologetics is not being sorry for something. It's not where you're apologizing for something as we do in traditional English, but rather it comes from the Greek word apologia, which means to defend a premise. And so apologetics is some type of argumentation, some type of evidence that is presented in defense of something. And so, for example, in Plato's Apology, he discussed or really talked about the apology of Socrates, the Greek philosopher who had to defend himself against the court for making arguments against the religion of that time. And so Socrates, as we know, was put to death, and his apology ended up not working. But the whole idea behind that was that the philosophers are able to defend the beliefs and defend the premises and defend the argumentation that they have, and this is what is known as apologetics. Hey, I'm Farhan Qureshi, and we're here at the University of Michigan on campus here, and I'm here with Ehtisham Ghulam. Ehtisham Ghulam participated in Muslim apologetics back in what year?
2009,
2010, and that was in 2009 was the first time that I met you. And you were involved in 3 debates. One of them was with Mary Jo Sharp, Dr. James White, and David Wood.
Yeah. Okay.
And you also have a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
What's that YouTube channel?
Answering Christians 1.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay, that's the YouTube channel. Okay, and since I met you in 2009 when I came for those debates, I've made a drastic life change, obviously, in terms of, you know, how I see reality and what I believe and whatnot. And you expressed concerns about you know, my choice. What are some of your concerns, and maybe we can discuss some of those concerns between you and me now.
First of all, I want to thank Farhan Qureshi for giving me this opportunity to, you know, finally express, you know, what I think and stuff like that. What I think is that obviously, you know, me and Farhan, we have a lot of similarities. I mean, we're involved in, you know, debates, and we're both involved in apologetics for a long time. I've been involved in apologetics not since 2009, actually since 2005. Okay. But I got in that scene in 2009. Okay. And obviously, you know, I did, in order for people to go to my website, you know, I thought that I would do these debates and more people would go to my website. Like, if you watch my debates, I didn't really care, like, I didn't really care about the debate. I was just, you know, saying random things. You know, the reason why I agreed to those debates was to get people to go to my website, and it worked.
To promote your dawah,
yeah,
right?
To promote my dawah. So, like, you know, those debates were never my concern. My concern was that, you know, the Muslims like Farhan and other, like, and Sami Zadri and stuff like that, were getting involved with people like David Wood and stuff, and Sam Shamoon and all those people. And I was afraid that the more they got involved with these people, the more these people would influence, you know, young Muslim apologists. So that was my concern. So that's why, you know, I started, you know, my YouTube channel and stuff like that, and, you know, did ad hominem attacks and stuff like that, okay. In order to, you know, protect, you know, other Muslim apologists from, you know, people like David Wood and Sam Shamoon. Okay.
I think that's pretty humble for you to say that, you know, you went in the direction of ad hominem.
Yeah.
Because obviously you expressed, you know, you called David Wood a crazy nutbag.
Yeah.
You made claims about Dr. James White, PhD, and whatnot.
Yeah.
And I mean, that would be ad hominem. You're trying to attack trying to attack them as a person rather than their arguments. and you may have had, you know, reasons in your mind that you did that.
No, that's not entirely true.
Okay.
You know, if you go to my YouTube channel, I actually did, you know, address the arguments of David Wood, James White.
Oh no, I'm sure you did.
Yeah.
But in addition to that, you were also
right? Because like I felt like, I don't know, the reason why I did that was I felt like I should tell Muslims the truth about them.
Okay.
But if you're saying that's ad hom, then yeah, you're right. I should stop. Doing that. But yeah.
Okay. But I mean, just going back on David Wood and Dr. James White, I mean, you know, everybody has their personal problems. You know what I mean? I have my personal problems. You know, everyone on the scene has personal issues, right?
Yeah, you're right. You're right. But like, if I can say something, like, I'm not the only one who says these things. Like, if you think I'm the only one spitting on this stuff about David Wood and James White, I'm not. Like, you could go on like internet websites, type in James White's bogus PhD, you'll see like 1,000 hits. Or no, not like, you know, like hundreds of websites. If you type in, no, actually, I was talking to Richard Carrier.
Okay.
Do you know Richard Carrier?
I know him.
I was talking to him about like debating David Wood on the resurrection or something like that. And then Richard Carrier said, no, I will never debate David Wood. And I asked why. Can I ask why? And then like, I'll never forget Richard Carrier's response. Richard Carrier was like, David Wood is a liar, he's a hate monger, and you know, it's not going to get me anywhere. It's like, it's pointless like debating with him. So like, I'm not the only one who has these views about David Wood and people like James White and stuff like that.
Okay.
You know,
now,
I'm sorry.
Oh, no, but I actually agree with you in terms of David. I completely, I don't appreciate, and I haven't appreciated in the past, you know, the way he approaches Muslims. In Islam in general. I've had conversations with him. I do semi-understand it.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, as a Christian guy, you have to understand that there's a lot of these keyboard warriors.
Yeah, you're right.
And so they're going to send him,
people,
they're going to send him all of these negative, comments and, you know what I mean, doing ad hominem attacks themselves, you know, but without, you know, exposing who they are, and that wanes on a person. You know what I mean? Right. Eventually, he's going to start getting more and more negative as he gets that type of feedback. And the only thing that I'm saying is that even though I disagree with his way of preaching to Muslims or, you know, preaching to Christians about Islam, even though I disagree with it, I mean, I can still I still respect the fact that he does have knowledge. He has PhD in philosophy. He studied Islam pretty intensely.
I would never say anything against his education. I think you know, his PhD is real, and you know, he worked for it, whatnot.
And well, the same thing with Dr. James White. Even though it might not be accredited,
that's where I disagree with you. Yeah.
Even though it's not accredited, he does have education. He teaches Greek. You know what I mean? He's written books. His knowledge on Christian theology is pretty up there.
Okay.
And so even though
that's where I disagree. Like, what I will say about this is I think Bart Ehrman is a billion times better than James White. I think James White, to be honest, I think he doesn't even hold a candle to Bart Ehrman.
Okay.
You know, I think that Bart Ehrman is a million times better. You know, and I respect Bart Ehrman's work. You know, I would read Bart Ehrman's work. I would love to have a discussion with Bart Ehrman. I would never, ever, ever have a discussion with James White, because I don't think, you know, I think that, to be honest, I think he's in lack of a better term, I think he's a hack. I don't think he's, you know, in the same league as Bart Ehrman or anything like that.
I mean, he's had like over 100 debates.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
That doesn't mean anything. Yeah, I mean, just because you won debates doesn't mean, you know, you're right.
But he went through seminary too.
Okay.
He went through seminary. He did get his doctorate, and might not be accredited, but my point is that he does have knowledge and he does have experience, and he seems to be a chill guy.
No, that's not what I. No. I mean, I think this guy is very arrogant. I think he's unnecessarily arrogant. I think he's very narcissistical. I think he's someone who's literally obsessed with himself. You know, I think Bart Ehrman is a.
I like Bart Ehrman a lot. I like him a lot.
I know somebody who met Bart Ehrman, and they said, you know, he's one of the nicest guys. He's humble. You know, he's not arrogant and stuff like that. So I think that, you know, Bart Ehrman will always be somebody I respect as a scholar. And Bart Ehrman actually does have a Master of Divinity degree, a THD, a PhD from like a real accredited school. So that's why I think that Bart Ehrman is a lot better than James White, and that's what I will say about it.
Okay, that's fine. I mean, I disagree with you. I do think that Dr. James White is a scholar. He has education and he has experience. But
that's where I respectfully disagree with you.
Yeah, and that's fine.
Okay.
But I guess the only other thing that I would say is, that even if you don't like what David Wood and James White, how they're handling themselves,
Yeah.
I still think that everybody has their faults.
You're right.
And that as a Muslim, and then Christians that need to think about this too. If they're going to be Christ-like, that they have to deal with other human beings.
Yeah, they have to humble themselves. Yeah,
a little bit more spiritually, a little bit more morally, and not so judgmental, not so much the ad hominems. And two wrongs don't make a right. Just because other people are doing it doesn't give you the right to just talk negatively about a person.
Yeah.
But I mean,
you have to understand that people are sensitive. Like we Muslims were sensitive about certain things about Islam and Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and stuff like that.
It's emotional completely.
We don't like people like David Wood and Sam Shamoun like spitting out this this racism or this hate against Islam or Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him.
And Sam Shamoun is another guy. He talks about like Blackstone liquors and stuff like completely inappropriate.
Yeah, it's completely inappropropriate.
And so I agree with you. I definitely disagree with the methodology of Sam Shamoun and sometimes David Wood. I think that it's unwarranted, that it's extreme in of itself.
I mean, I will say this: I think David Wood just likes controversy. I'll be straight up honest with you. I think he just likes to stir the pot and likes controversy. What do you think about that? Do you think you think I'm right or?
No, I don't think that you're completely right. I think that there was a genuine person there. Like David Wood went through a lot of stuff.
What do you mean?
In life, just in general, in life in general. His childhood, his adolescence, growing up as an adult. When a person goes through that, and then is transformed the way that he was truly transformed. He's a much better person now because of Christianity. Whether you disagree with Christianity or not, I think that his faith helped him become a better person. Is he perfect? No, but nobody is. Now, does he like controversy?
Other Muslims can claim the same thing.
Well, does he like controversy? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. There you go.
The whole Dearborn incident.
Yeah. Exactly.
Was
Exactly.
It was provocative.
Yeah, that's what I was going to bring up. Yeah.
And I mean, I think that it was provocative. I don't think that they should have been arrested and all that, but it was dramatic. It was provocative, and he knows that it was. I mean, I have no hesitation in saying that. But I mean, I still consider, I always try to look at the positive in people.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Always look at the positive in people, because everybody has negative.
You're right.
It's very easy to judge somebody on their negative things. And so, do I see positivity in David Wood? Do I like him as a person? Yeah, me personally.
Sometimes he's nice. I'm not going to say he's completely evil. I'm not going to say he's like completely shaitan or the devil. I mean, he is nice. Sometimes he is. He was nice to me. I mean, he agreed.
He's passionate too. He's really passionate, and he gets riled up when he's passionate.
You're right.
And that's
he
him.
flew all the way from New York to Michigan to debate me, and he did that on his dime. Like I don't know that many people that would do that.
Right.
You see, and when the debate, when I didn't do good in the debate, I offered to refund him.
Right.
Because it doesn't feel right for someone to go to New York and that person not getting.
So there is a good person.
There is a good person.
But there's also the controversial person.
Yeah,
and that's fine.
Right,
and that's something that we can work with. You know what I mean? That in terms of any human being that has faults or shortcomings or failures or weaknesses, and we all do, I think that's something that we can work with. But my thing is, I always try to look for the positive in people, and when I do that, they seem to be like a much better person than if you were to just focus on the negative things that they do, which is so easy. The pessimist normally looks at all the negative things. And I seem to be a little bit more optimistic, and I think that we can all use a little bit more optimism and try to look for the good in people.
I mean, what I will say is that, from my observations of apologetics over the years, I've been an apologist since 2005. It's 2012 right now, so that makes it, 7 years?
Okay.
I think that Islamic apologetics has risen. I think that, a lot Muslims have stepped up in their apologetics mainly because of three people: Bassam Zawahiri, Sami Zaatari, and Shabir Ali. I think these three changed the game, and to a lesser extent, Nader Ahmed. And I know Muslims will disagree with me on that, but I feel he's good at debating and stuff like that. So I feel like these theological stuff, is the Quran preserved? Is Muhammad a prophet of God? Is Jesus God or whatever? I think all these topics have been thoroughly examined by Muslims and refuted. I think Muslims have proved their position. I think where Farhan is getting at these philosophical questions. Is hell just?
Well, to me, debating has never been about winning or losing.
Yeah,
I think that's a really bad way to look at debating. At least for me, it wasn't about winning or losing. It wasn't about gaining points. It was about genuinely trying to defend your source of spirituality, global brotherhood, and identity, and everything that you believe in.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It's a way to defend it. You have a perspective. You should know why you have that perspective, and you should be able to defend that perspective.
Yeah, you're right. It should be more to inform rather than to put
it should
down.
It should be to inform and to hear two perspectives.
Yeah.
Winning and losing, it's not because the person with more knowledge will seemingly win the debate.
You're right. You're right.
And an atheist can beat a Christian can beat an atheist, or you can come up with any scenario that.
No, I mean I kind of like disagree because like I think that winning a debate has no connection to being right.
Yeah,
you see?
exactly. That's what we're getting at. Now I think that most people would agree with that.
Like I don't think that Christians are going to view Ahmadiyyad's debates and like immediately convert to Islam because he won all those debates.
Right.
I think there's more to it.
Yes.
So that's what I'm working on. I'm trying to make some YouTube videos, have some dialogues, not really like debate or discussions.
Well, let's come back to Islamic apologetics for a second, because you mentioned some names.
Yeah.
I mean, I really like all of the names that you mentioned. Nadir Ahmed has been controversial.
Yeah.
And he and I even have had disputes, back and forth. Been on good terms, bad terms, good terms.
You're right.
And again, it really takes the bigger person to forgive and look for the positive in person. I just had a conversation with him today.
Okay.
Supposedly he's going to be debating Robert Spencer, that's still coming into fruition. Who knows if it happens, but if it does, great. We'll talk about that when more stuff happens in terms of making that happen. But Nadir Ahmed has been controversial too.
Yeah, you're right.
You know what I mean?
You're right.
So if you're going to look at David Wood and Dr. James White and these guys and try to criticize them for coming across a certain way, then you have to do it with Muslim apologists too, like Nadir Ahmed.
What I will say is that I don't know what these controversies about Nadir Ahmed are. Like to be perfectly honest with you, I don't really care because it could be like this weird, I don't know, mutta. Like I heard something about mutta or something like that. I don't.
No,
really
I mean
care,
it's the erroneous debate challenges. I'm right, you're wrong. I proved you wrong. This level of arrogance there.
You're right.
You know what I mean?
You're right.
And it's unattractive.
Yeah.
It doesn't make me want to consider Islam more. It makes me think the guy is arrogant.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Exactly.
But
and this is what I feel with James White.
I talked to Nadir Ahmed. He said that's something that he's constantly working on, as we all are.
Yeah, exactly.
We all have issues with our.
We're trying to humble ourselves.
Yeah. And that's a big part of Islam, is to confront your nafs, to confront your ego.
Exactly.
And that's a part of the journey. And I think that I can appreciate, Nadir despite his shortcomings. I mean, the others, Sami Zaatari, I just debated the problem with evil on.
Okay.
I met him twice.
Okay.
Great experience with him. Bassam Zawadi, very good. Shabir Ali is the one who, to me, changed Islamic apologetics on a whole different level. Rather than the basic arguments that Ahmadiyyat and Zakir Naik were giving for so long, Shabir Ali was the one who went a little bit more deeper into theology.
Exactly.
Right, and he did that with debates with who I think is one of the greatest philosophers living today, is William Lane Craig, in his debates with him.
That's right. He did.
I disagree with William Lane Craig, but I think he's an amazing scholar and an amazing philosopher. And then I would add other names to it too. Abdullah al-Andalusi of the Muslim Debate Initiative is great. Hamza Sortsi, he's very charismatic and he's up and coming. And Adam Dean is another guy who I had the opportunity to meet when I was in London. And I've seen his lectures and debates too. I like him. I think that they certain things that they're kind of rehashing from William Lane Craig. It seems like they're getting a lot of their stuff from William Lane Craig and just throwing their Islamic spin on it. But that's fine. I think William Lane Craig is an amazing philosopher, and I look up to him.
Yeah, you're right.
I study his debates all the time, and I wouldn't hesitate to say that. Okay, William Lane Craig posits this scenario. You know what I mean? And so I don't think that's.
Yeah, I think William Lane Craig does a good job refuting atheism.
He's really smart.
Yeah,
very smart.
Refuting atheism and
he's
stuff
good.
like that. Like, does God exist and stuff like that. But what I will say is that, like, I don't know. I feel like not every Muslim apologist should debate. I think I made. Okay. I think that like those debates I did, like they didn't mean anything to me. But I feel like other Muslims were disappointed that I didn't do good in those debates.
Right.
You see, that's what kind of.
But that's fine. Yeah. If you lose a debate or if you do bad, it's not the end of the world, and it doesn't mean Islam is untrue.
You're right.
Or anything along those lines. the reason why people debate.
Yeah.
Well, what's the reason to defend a perspective
Well,
that's passionate about, right?
they're like different reasons. There are people like debate for fame, or they just want attention.
That's
but
true.
you're right. There could be some truth seekers out there
Right.
who really want to convey the information.
Right.
In you know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what I feel that I am. You know what I mean? I'm a truth seeker. And I want to document my journey so I can constantly relive it. Think about the things that the other apologist that I'm debating is saying, you know, as many times as possible throughout my life. To really think about their arguments and consider the possibility of that. And that's the reason why another reason why I'm debating is because to challenge my own beliefs.
You're right.
You know what I mean?
Right. But were you influenced by people like David Wood or like Nabil Qureshi? Or
Okay. There's two parts to this answer, because I know this is something that you brought up in your video, that I was hanging around them too much and that they might have influenced me. And my two-part answer is this. I only saw David Wood and Nabil Qureshi like once a year for like 3 or 4 years, maybe twice, like in 2007.
Okay.
Right? So I really wasn't hanging around them. They weren't constantly putting information in my head. Unlike David Wood and Nabil Qureshi, they were constantly together for 5 years.
5 years. Yeah.
You know what I mean? That was not the case with me. I barely ever saw them. For the most part, I was going to the masjid. What did it to me was, you know, I went to school for psychology, and I started learning things in the curriculum that started causing the doubts. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I started seeing why human beings are behaving the way that they are.
But I feel your story is exactly like somebody named Ibn Warq. Do you know who Ibn Warq is?
Yeah, I know he is, a Pakistani guy.
Yeah, exactly. He's like a Pakistani apostate.
Yeah.
I feel like, you know, like when I made that video back in, I think it was like August or something like that, I felt like when I was making the video, like Ibn Warq was going through my head, because like Ibn Warq was somebody who was influenced, not by psychology, but by these Orientalist like work, like these, you know, for lack of a better term, white people, like analysis of Islam and stuff like that. Now, obviously, like these Western academics and these Orientalists and these Christian apologetics, to be honest, they don't know that much about Islam. They don't know. Most of them don't know Arabic. Some of them might do, you know, maybe, I don't know. But they don't know Arabic. They haven't checked like Hadith commentaries. They don't know tafsir. They don't know like Arabic or Quranic Arabic.
Yeah, it's an elaborate.
You're right. Yeah, it's like Islam's
theology.
a huge thing.
Yeah.
You know.
But I mean, similarly, Muslims don't know Christianity either, in that sense.
Right.
They don't know the intensity of all of the schools of thought and what goes into theology.
Right.
But that's what I'm saying. It doesn't take a scholar to be a truth seeker. It doesn't take a scholar to be able to have a perspective, to think about that perspective and have a discussion about it. And I think that's why anybody could have it, and that's all that I was doing.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Now, in terms of, you know, me thinking about psychology and whatnot, that had a part to do with it. What I will admit to, in terms of Nabil Qureshi and David Wood having an influence on me, is that apologetics was a platform that enabled me to think about issues that I had not thought about before.
Oh, I see what you mean.
About Prophet Muhammad, about the Quran, and about Christianity. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It made me, it kind of forced me to study these things.
Okay.
And that's what I liked about it. I was like, I need to study these things, because if atheism is true, or if Christianity is true, why would I want to deprive myself of that? You know what I mean?
Right.
And so that was kind of my thing. Did they have an influence on me? Inevitably. I debated them. I considered their perspectives. But was I always around them and they were kind of, you know, molding my mind? No, I don't think so at all.
Okay.
I saw them like once a year. I haven't seen David and Nabil in like 2-3 years. Maybe even I don't remember the last time I saw them.
Oh, okay.
But
no, like my concern was like going back to Ibn Warq. Okay, like what happened with Ibn Warq was that he got influenced, he got impressed by these Orientalists or Western academics, and he thought these guys are right, and you know whatever Muslims say is wrong, right? Like whatever these guys say about the Quran preservation or Ibn Masud and you know the preservation of the Quran, whatever, like these various things. Ibn Warq got impressed, and so you know that I guess that eradicated his faith or something like that.
Okay.
And like he's not alone. Like if you like a lot of these like Muslims from Muslim countries, right? When they come to the West and they read like anti-Islamic stuff and stuff like that, sometimes that like influences them, and either they go to Christianity or they stop practicing Islam, or you know they become agnostic, atheist, or whatever. You know, this is real. I mean, this happens. I mean. And I feel like the reason it happens is because one, lack of knowledge of Islam, and two, lack of community or lack of ummah, of being with the Muslims.
Right.
I mean, you want to?
No, I agree with you. If a person is constantly in the masjid, they're gonna fall in love with the Muslim community.
You're right.
I certainly did,
yeah.
and there's no doubt about that. I still love the Muslim ummah. I love the Muslim community. I love the brotherhood. And here's one thing: the positive things that Islam did for me, I would be a hypocrite if I were to deny it.
Yeah, you're right.
You know what I mean? There's so many guys out there who leave Islam and are completely negative.
Yeah.
Completely negative and hostile towards Islam and Muslims. And that's not me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's not me.
I don't think that's a fair.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a fair assessment because if these guys are just spitting out their own like venom or hatred without like really being with the Muslims, then I don't think that's fair.
Yeah, it's not. And that's why I invited David Wood and Nabil Qureshi and Antonio Santana and others throughout time to the ISNA conference.
Yeah.
Because the ISNA conference has always been a great, powerful experience for me. It still is.
Look what these guys did in the ISNA conference.
But that was after. Well, not at the ISNA conference. They were chill at the ISNA conference, actually.
Then what? I heard that like security escorted them out.
No, that was the Arab festival.
No, that was the ISNA.
No, I was with them at ISNA. They were chill. They didn't have any problems at ISNA. The Arab festival is when they had problems with security and police. So they're fine at ISNA.
No, like I can show you like a video.
Okay,
of them,
you're gonna have to show me that.
Okay, I will.
Yeah, I didn't, because I was there with them at ISNA.
I'll show you. I'm not making this up.
Unless they went another year that I was.
Yeah,
there.
maybe
Okay.
that. Yeah, maybe that.
I don't know. You're gonna have to show me that. But and I didn't hear anything about that if they did.
Okay, but no, I'll show it to you. But like what I will say is this, that I feel like at this point, like the reason why I am Muslim is because I've actually studied Islam. I've actually studied, Christianity. Like, am I a scholar on Christianity? No. Do I have a PhD? No. But I've actually studied it. I've studied, conservative Christians and the arguments for the resurrection or whatever. I've studied Islam. I've looked into atheists and atheist philosophers and like the arguments for atheism and stuff like that. And I feel like after I read the Quran, I felt like Allah was talking to me. I felt like the Quran was something that could not have been written by Muhammad, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, or like any Arab, because like I feel like when I read the Quran, I felt like a peace, and I felt like the Quran was logical and stuff like that, and it was like revealing about my purpose and meaning in life. Like I didn't see this with the New Testament. I didn't see this with the Bible, with the Old Testament, with the Bible or the Hindu scriptures or anything like that. And I studied Hinduism a little bit too, because like my I'm from India, obviously.
Oh, really?
India, yeah.
I don't know if you know, I'm kind of into Eastern philosophy now.
Oh, okay.
I mean, no, I'm not going to convert
to
I'm not going to convert to any religion. I'm content with being an agnostic, which is not an atheist. It's just somebody who doesn't know what the ultimate reality is. But Hinduism, Sanatana Dharma, and Buddhism, Buddha Dharma are very close to my heart. And they do influence it.
Yeah, I did read up on that stuff and stuff like that. And like what's interesting is I found like similarities between Jesus and Buddha.
A lot.
Yeah, a lot. Like maybe
Krishna.
Maybe like maybe those people were influenced by Buddha's teaching. I don't know. But like that's a different discussion. But what I will say is that a couple things kept me a Muslim. You see, between me, this is where me and Farhan are different. The thing that kept me a Muslim, like 100%, is the Muslim Ummah, our Muslim community, right? Because like my parents forced me, I hate to say this, they forced me to be part of the Muslim community. Because like in high school, I didn't really want anything to do with Islam. I just wanted to, skateboard and, my friends were in a band and I wanted to, listen to their music and stuff like that. I didn't really care about religion.
Okay.
You see what I mean? I think a lot of kids have that problem.
Yeah, I mean, I went through that phase too.
You're right. But my parents, like, forced me to be with the Muslim community and stuff like that.
And that helped you.
Yeah, that helped me.
It helped you spiritually.
Yeah.
And that's huge.
Yeah.
And that's what I think that Christians and former Muslims or anybody who's watching it needs to understand. That Islam can absolutely transform a person spiritually and help them in so many ways, just like it helped me. And I really do believe that Islam has helped you.
Yeah.
But I mean, on the same token, I think Christianity, for example, has helped David Wood become a better person.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying? And that's why I'm also, would posit universalism, that all religions have universal truths to them. You know what I mean? There's beauty outside of Islam in broader humanity as well.
I see.
Including in the Hindu mandirs, including in the churches. in their belief in God and in their spirituality, they find comfort and peace and serenity and transformation also.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
But I feel like the reason why I'm a Muslim, and this is another reason, and this might get controversial, is the reason why I'm still a Muslim is because there's a lot of evidence for Islam. Like, I would have to argue there's no religion that presents evidence for itself like Islam. That's why, as a truth seeker, I'm a Muslim.
And I think that's fair, because as a Muslim and as a Muslim apologist, I would posit that too. I thought that there was evidence for Islam. And I think that a lot of that evidence, and even when I think about some of my previous debates, I would still go with some of those arguments.
Yeah, you're right.
It's not like, look, just because I left Islam because I disagree with the doctrine of hell and how I think that's incompatible with human behavior and why human behavior is the way that it is, and that it's a just punishment. That doesn't mean that, that I started to say that, everything about Islam is negative, or everything about Islam is wrong, or all of their evidence is wrong, or every time they're persecuted, and Muslims are persecuted, and Muslims do persecute too. It's just a human behavior issue, a social issue.
Talking about social issues,
okay.
Let me ask you, what do your parents think about your apostasy? I remember you told me your parents are Muslim.
Well, you have to understand that I was born and raised into the Ahmadiyya community.
Okay.
Right, and when I was 17 years old,
right.
I'm 27 now. When I was 17 years old, I left Ahmadiyya and became Sunni Muslim.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
And so for 10 years I practiced Sunni Islam. And so that was really traumatic for them. For them to see me move from Ahmadiyya.
Yeah, it reminds me of Nabil Qureshi.
Yeah,
because Nabil Qureshi like his parents were also.
Oh, extremely.
Yeah.
I know Nabil's parents, very well. They
Okay.
were absolutely devastated about his conversion from Ahmadiyya to Christianity.
So I was wondering about your
and
parents.
So mine were too, in that sense. But that was like 10 years ago. So, when I left Islam and I said that, I think Islam is a beautiful religion. I honor and celebrate it completely.
Okay.
And I told you that too, right? I honor and celebrate.
And that's one of the things I like about him. He's not spitting hatred against Islam or Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him.
And I've even said sallallahu alaihi wasallam when I mentioned Muhammad's name. And
I appreciate that because other Christians like David Wood and Sam Shamoun could learn from that,
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think that. Well, they're Christians and they think that he's a false prophet. I don't hold to that perspective, but
or that type of respect.
At least a little bit more. To be a little bit more Christ-like. Right?
Yeah.
I think that they should be. So my point is that when I decided to say that I'm not Muslim anymore, I said that I still honor and celebrate this religion. And that's fine. I still honor and celebrate the religion. But I think that all religions can ultimately help a person spiritually.
You're right.
You know what I mean? Right. And I think that all religions, no matter what religion you want to follow, that's fine. You know what I mean? I don't believe in this exclusivity doctrine that if you don't believe what I believe, that you deserve to be tortured in hell. You know what I mean? And so
I don't. Okay.
But I mean, you're going to disagree as a Muslim, but you're understanding what I'm saying, right?
Okay.
And so the last part of it about that was because when I switched from Ahmadiyya to Islam, I said that Mirza Ghulam Ahmad was a false prophet.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I said that he's in some type of, he either was delusional or lying, some type of an imposter, right? When I left Islam, I was able to say that, look, I respect Muhammad, I respect Mirza Ghulam Ahmad even now. I don't say negative things about that guy anymore. I can see the positive.
And that's good. That's a really good thing. That's what I respect about Farhan. Yeah.
And so I can look at a lot of different thinkers and individuals who claimed a lot of different things, from all different religions, and say, you know what, right there, what they're saying seems to be really positive and helpful and beneficial to the congregations that they're preaching this to.
You're right.
Now, I disagree with this part, but you know what? If this is how their religion helps them become better individuals, better human beings, more God conscious, more aware of God, then great. You know what I mean? So, I mean, that's pretty much where I'm at. You know what I mean?
I mean, I understand what you're saying. I was just wondering, about your parents, what your parents thought about you leaving, because it's obviously an emotional, thing. Like a lot of Muslims from our community, their parents are strict on them, and whether they're Arab or Desi, whatever.
It's hard at the Sham. It's hard. Like even some of the pastors and preachers and apologists and missionaries of the Christian that I've debated, I tell them this. You are way too invested in Christianity.
Yeah, exactly.
You're married. You have kids. You have this ministry. You put all of this time and effort into going to church and seminary or whatever. You know what I mean? And so much passion devoted years worth.
even if Christianity didn't seem to be the truth for you, it'd be extremely difficult for you to leave.
You're right. You're right.
You know what I mean? And that's when you understand. That's from my perspective. I understand what indoctrination does to people. You know what I mean? On that token of how a Christian cannot. It's difficult for not just Christians and Muslims, but even atheists. You know, who become so convinced that they're true, that they're right, that they really can't think outside of the box because they devoted so much time, effort, energy, money, you know, into their beliefs.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying?
But as a truth seeker, I feel like, you know, the evidence pointed to Islam for me. Like you'll disagree, you know.
Yeah, no, I know, but I respect that.
Okay,
you see what I'm saying? And I have no problems with that.
Yeah.
The only problems that I have, and the reason why I debate, is still to challenge myself.
Okay.
You know what I mean? If Islam is the truth, I don't want to deprive myself of that.
Okay.
I would want to be Muslim. You know what I mean? If it's same thing Christianity.
But the thing is, like, you know, reading like a bunch of anti-Islamic websites over the years and stuff like that. Like, what I will say is, like, you know, faithfreedom.org or, you know, like Ibn Warwick's work or whatever, and these Christian websites. What I will say is, like, the majority of arguments against Islam are subjective or emotional. Okay. That means people reject certain rulings or teachings of Islam simply because they don't like it, agree with it, or understand it. For example, somebody once said that Islam can't be true because it allows the man to marry more than one wife. I mean, that's not really a threat to the validity of Islam. Or Islam can't be true because it makes the woman wear the hijab or the headscarf.
Well, I think there's different reasons why the haters, if we will, attack Islam the way that they do. Either they were hurt by it in some way, or another reason is because they're really afraid of Islam.
Yeah, you're right.
The Islamophobia, in a sense, is real. Yeah. Because there's a lot of people who are afraid of what it would be like to be under Sharia law.
Yeah, exactly.
But I mean, whether Sharia law is what it is, or what is it, how can we interpret it? That's not what I'm wanting to discuss. But you know, the idea of having to live under Sharia law is something that they're truly worried about. I mean, in Pakistan, in Saudi Arabia, they're afraid to express themselves because of the strict laws that they have. So there's a lot of different reasons why a person can become a hater of Islam. I think that it's wrong, and I do agree that it is emotional. You know what I mean? In that sense.
Another thing against Islam is, you know, a lot of people I've done dawah for like a while, like, you know, without the debates. I've done it in my school, my old school, Eastern Michigan University. I used to, you know, preach Islam and stuff like that. And I don't know, like, I felt like there were times when I was successful, and there were times I wasn't successful. And the times I wasn't successful is I felt people had this intolerant or this racist, like, thing against me just because, you know, I'm Muslim or Indian or, you know, one of those two. I don't know what it is. But like with Islam, like you know, in my Muslim community, you know, there's everyone. There's, you know, white Muslims, there's black Muslims, there's Indian Pakistanis, there's, you know, Levantine Arabs, there are, you know, Iraqis, whatever. There's like, you know, every race. Yeah. You know, there's Muslims, and even like Asian Muslims and stuff like that. Like, I don't know, like, am I making sense? Like, you know, this term of this, like, growing racism against, you know, Arabs and Pakistani and Indians and stuff like that.
Well, in matter of fact, Adam Dean just did a lecture. I don't remember. It was something about terrorism or something along those lines. He made a good point. If individuals keep, he said, let's play a word game. If I say cat, what are you going to think? Dog, right? And then Adam Dean goes on to say, that the same thing goes on in terms of the word Muslim. When I say Muslim, what are you going to think of? A lot of Americans and a lot of Westerners are going to think terrorists. Because that's the first thing that pops up in their mind.
Exactly.
Why? Because the media keeps on putting into everybody's mind that Muslim terrorism, Muslim terrorism, right? And so when that gets, you know, when that's repeated enough times, you know, in newspapers, in the media, on television, when it's repeated enough times, it becomes a part of the psyche.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? And so, there are people out there who, anytime they see a Sikh who's not even Muslim, anybody they see an Indian person or Pakistani person or Arab person, they start to get kind of weird around it. I've even experienced it at the airport.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I personally experienced it at the airport. I used to get these vibes, especially when I had a beard.
Yeah.
But no, it does happen. And that's why I think that it's really important for Muslims like you and other people out there to go educate them.
Yeah,
and say,
exactly.
look,
Like,
the vast majority of human beings, the vast majority of Muslims are chill.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? And
I mean, like, I don't know, like in my old school, I obviously felt like, you know, racism and stuff like that because, you know, I was brown or, you know, Indian. I mean, people thought I was Arab, but I mean, I have no Arab blood in me. But you know what I mean? I mean, like, it's this fear and this hate mongering against Islam, which is like, I don't know.
And that's why that's why we were defending Islam the way that we were, because we knew that Islam was beautiful.
Yeah.
We knew that there was this whole aspect of Islam that we absolutely fell in love with and that helped us. You know what I mean? And then you have these haters who are bashing something that you love.
Yeah, yeah.
So it is emotional. You know what I mean?
And like, I don't know, like Muslims started their own like thing against like white people. Like, you know, in our community, we don't want too much to do with white people. So like it works both ways, you know, like Muslims don't want anything to do with, with these white people,
and that's the same thing happens in the Muslim communities. What happens is Jewphobia and Westophobia. That when Muslims are constantly saying Jews are this, Jews are that, or the West is this and West are haters, the Muslim gets the paranoia and the uncomfortable feeling with the others. I mean, personally, I don't like saying white person, black person. I try to look beyond race, and that's something that Prophet Muhammad taught.
Yeah, peace be upon him.
Right, and I think that we should really look beyond race and say it's a cultural thing.
Yeah, it's a cultural thing.
And it's a psychological thing.
Yeah.
Right,
Right.
This is what human beings are conditioned with. So it doesn't matter what race it is. It matters what kind of conditioning that they've been through.
No, like I felt like the only acceptable racism was, you know, racism against, you know, Muslims and stuff like that. Like if somebody in my old school discriminated against a Hispanic or a black or Asian, you know, there would be like it would be hell for them. You see, but if somebody discriminated against a Muslim, then I felt like it wouldn't be too controversial or something like that.
But see, that's what African Americans went through forever. You know, I mean, there's a lot of minorities. There are a lot of minorities who go through that in general. Unfortunately, because that's how society conditions them.
Yeah.
But I think that human civilization is getting better at it.
Okay.
Because our generation is exposed to much more diversity and plurality versus the baby boomer generation, which are our parents, who are much less exposed to diversity and plurality. You know,
and
minorities.
Look at this Sham Shamoun. Okay, like look how silly this is. This guy is not even. He's like Assyrian, Iraqi, or something like that. He's spitting out like he's saying Muslims are a cancer to society and stuff like that. So like, how on earth can we go forward?
What is he saying? Muslims are? Or is he saying?
Yeah, I heard like you know, Muslims are a cancer to society. Like Islam, I don't know. Like I can show you the recording. He said like Muslims are a cancer to society and stuff like that. I mean, how on earth can we progress forward if
but when you're painting that type of a picture,
exactly. Yeah.
It pushes people away instead of being, you know, instead of inviting them.
Yeah, and then someone gave them their own TV show, which scares the hell out of me, Jesus or Muhammad.
That's on ABN. ABN's going to do that. The conservative Christians.
Yeah, they're just going to throw, you know, all these arguments against it. Yeah.
Okay. So all right, the last thing that I think that we can discuss is the whole thing that you know, the whole emotional thing that I think that you were pretty adamant in your videos about, you know, whether my apostasy, if you will, was purely from due to emotion.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to deny that emotion had to be a part of it. I mean, human being obviously have emotions, right? But I think that it was an intellectual, academic pursuit of psychology.
Okay.
You know, that got me to think about human behavior, why humans are acting the way that they are, why they're so attached to their beliefs the way that they are.
No, but I know plenty of Muslim psychologists who have also studied like, you know, or like older, who also like read the same stuff, but they're still Muslims. So
they're still Muslim. Yeah, and no, I agree with you. The person can have a grasp of what brainwashing and indoctrination and human conditioning is, and still choose to be Christian or Muslim or whatever, and say that, you know what, maybe this isn't just a bias that I have, that there's evidence for Islam.
Yeah, you're right.
But my conclusion wasn't about evidence for or against Islam. My conclusion was based on that if this is human behavior, if this is what conditioning and indoctrination is by definition, we can not just theorize it. It's not just a theory. It's not just theoretical, but we can see it in human behavior. We see it in human behavior. For example, in my debate with Abdullah al-Andalusi, I brought up the example of Wahir camping and how his followers thought the world was going to end on May 21st.
Okay.
And they were crying because of that.
Yeah.
That's indoctrination. You can see it in... Alright, so my point is that through an academic pursuit of psychology, I said that this is what indoctrination looks like. When the guys who crashed the plane into the World Trade Center. That's what brainwashing looks like.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so we see it in human behavior. It's not just theoretical. And my point is this: that every human being has biases.
Yeah.
Every human being goes through conditioning in some type of attachment process, right? And identity seeking, as Erik Erikson talked about. And so, based on that, I couldn't believe that my parents deserved to be held because they were Qadiani. You see what I'm saying? I think that they legitimately believe in what they believe in. Just like Christians legitimately believe what they believe in. There might be defense mechanisms involved, there might be biases involved, but the point is, whatever they're thinking, they think it for a reason.
Right.
And so that's all that I was saying. I think that is how psychology led me to the conclusion to the university.
Oh, I see. I mean, yeah, I agree with you. I think that like a lot of kids, I feel like a lot of kids from, like I'm in Michigan. I obviously live in Michigan, right? And like I feel like a lot of like the Daisy kids, they're forced. Like you said, like indoctrination. They're forced to be Muslim.
Right.
Their parents want them to be Muslim. Their parents don't want them hanging out with like white kids or white people or anything. They just want them to be in the mosque and stuff like that. And I don't think that's right. I think that they should expand their worldview and stuff like that. I would say that I'm a Muslim because I choose to be, not because I have to be.
And that's that's fine. I wouldn't look, and that's and we'll end on this. Is that I would not want to disturb your source of spirituality, and I don't think that you should. And that would never be my agenda. And I think I would encourage you to be Muslim and be a better Muslim.
Yeah.
And
I mean, I feel like internet apologetics for Islam has risen to the point where I'm not really needed to like debate these people or anything like that. I feel like now it's come to ending racism or getting rid of these stereotypes or something like that. So that's what I want to do with my YouTube channel, is expand so people understand Islam, not necessarily convert to Islam.
To understand Islam better.
Islam.
And I think that's the best way for them to inquire about it. If you want to learn about Islam, don't go on the internet to learn about it. Go to the masjid. Go to the masjid. Go to the churches. Go to the source itself, because truth is more experiential. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and end on that, and thank you at the time it's been fun meeting you again.
Exactly.
And hope to see you again in the future, bro.
Inshallah.
All right. Well, I can sit down.